Hello, and welcome to the Quietly Visible podcast. I'm your host, Carol Stewart, founder of Abounding Solutions and author of Quietly Visible Leading with Influence and Impact as an Introverted Woman. And this is the podcast for introverted women who want to thrive as leaders and in life. Now, today's guest is Dr. Lynise Green, and she's an integrated wellness and leadership consultant, wellness strategist, and award-winning expert who helps high-achieving women and forward-thinking organizations shift from burnout to balance and lead with greater clarity, energy, and impact. And the topic that we're going to be exploring today, we're going to be exploring how introverted women in leadership can reclaim their energy and authority by leading in ways that feel authentic, not performative. And so we're going to be unpacking things such as the myth that productivity requires constant visibility or hustle and instead focus on how presence, purpose, and intentional energy use can be more powerful, far more powerful than speaking the loudest in the room. So hello, Lynise, and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Carol. I'm happy to be here.
It's great to have you here. So before we start the exploration, let us know a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, wow, who I am, that's always a big question. So I am, a mom and a grandmom now, and a sister and a daughter and a granddaughter and all those wonderful things. I'm a business owner, and professionally, I am a former a former engineer, turned naturopath turned consultant. So lots of twists and turns in my life that led me
Mm.
here.
Yes, and that is an interesting, engineer to naturopath. And yeah, before we begin, what was that journey like, and what made you transition from an engineer to a naturopath?
Yeah. I my first degree was in mechanical engineering, and I did that for quite a while, large scale software development, program management kind of thing. And I was actually working on a master's degree because in my head I wanted to, climb the corporate ladder and do all the things. And my grandmother got diagnosed with ovarian cancer. And during that time, we came across the help of a lady who was a naturopath. And I was so impressed by what she knew, and just like her knowledge of the body and how it worked. And I just thought to myself, like, how come everybody doesn't know this information? And so I made it my point. So I totally switched gears and went back to school again and got a doctorate in naturopathy, and then did postgraduate work in nutrition and stress management. And so here I am. Yeah.
Wow, amazing. And it just goes to show how, when you want to make a transition, you can, because naturopathy is very different to engineering. And that 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 takes a lot of courage to go from something that you're so familiar in, to go step out into that unknown and to do something completely different. Yeah. And so what do you think it was that gave you the confidence to pursue that?
Again, when I had the opportunity to get to know the woman, the naturopath that we had met, and honestly, I was just so amazed with what she understood about the body, how it worked, how it could heal, how food and our thoughts and the things that we do just really have such a big impact on our health and our well-being. And really my thought was honestly like, why don't more people know this? You know,
Mm-hmm.
why is no one telling us this? And I just thought, I guess I need to do that. And so it was
Mm-hmm.
a little scary, to move from one to the other. But what I did find was um, my background, in mechanical engineering is all about systems and how they work together. And so it translated really well because the body is a system. And so I just kind of had to learn how it worked together. And it was
Mm.
actually exciting because I love to learn new things. And yeah, it just always keeps me on my toes because I'm always learning still. So
That's good. That's very good. And so I'm sure many of the listeners, viewers will be encouraged by that because, you know, I often have people who watch the podcast, listen to the podcast, who are thinking of making a transition to do something completely different. And I often find women, and it's not just introverted women, but many women, once they get to a certain stage in their life, and they want to do something different, something more meaningful. They may have a certain experience, or someone close to them may have a certain experience, like you with your
mhm.
grandmother, that gives them a desire to do something different that will have a big impact. And
Yeah.
so thank you for sharing that because I'm sure it will
Oh,
encourage many
oh,
people that
good.
are listening.
Good.
Yeah. So, if we look at the topic that we're going to be exploring, how introverted women in leadership can reclaim their energy and authority by leading in ways that feel authentic, not performative. Um, and I think that performative is not being performative is something worth unpacking. So, tell us about that.
Yeah, so a lot of leadership models really prioritize that outward energy, always networking, always being visible, lots of, just decision making, and a lot of success in professional spaces is defined by productivity and output, right? So we're always doing, we're always proving, we're always, one more thing to do on the to-do list. And as an introvert and as an introverted leader, it's exhausting. It's
Mm-hmm.
absolutely, exhausting. And so, um, my approach, which is really something that was born out of my own multiple bouts of burnout over the
Mm-hmm.
years, particularly when I was doing the engineering work, really flips the script a little bit and challenges that idea that you have to always be on, that you have to always be going, always be doing, and that success in leadership doesn't have to be about always expending energy, but really optimizing your energy. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that is very interesting because, as you say, how, a lot of people think organizations we have become very much, um, or we have adopted very much adopted cultures where it's that performative, as you described, where, you've always got to be visible, you've always got to be producing something, you've always got to be on the go. But as you said, it's exhausting. And so you recognize this, having experienced burnout yourself. So if you touch on how what sort of things that you were doing that led to that, in terms of always being on, always feeling that you've got to produce. If you just describe a bit of what that was like.
yeah, so particularly for women, I think we, for better or for worse, we tend to be really good at multitasking. I think often because we don't have a choice, right? Because women manage a lot of what I call invisible emotional labor. So, I have to be at work and I'm a leader at work. And so I'm managing projects, I'm managing budgets, I'm managing personalities, right? All the things that happen at work, but I'm also bringing all of the things from the rest of my life, right? So I'm got kids and partners and friends and social circles and churches and all of the things that happen. So for me, it's interesting. Like I said, I probably have gone through a couple of different bouts of burnout over the years, but each one was a little bit different. and 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 showed up very different for me. So the first time really was more the physical burnout, the exhaustion. I'm just tired, like sleep doesn't make it any better. And it was also what I call spiritual burnout. So I found that I was really not aligned with my values and, or, the work that I was doing wasn't aligned with my values. And it was really draining me, really, really draining. So somehow or another, I managed through that. I don't know certainly that I know what I know now, but I got through it. The next time was actually more of an emotional burnout. So just really, I had lost my joy. I had lost myself in my own life. So that one was very different. It showed up. I had the energy. I was, I was fine. But that one was very different. And then honestly, the third one was actually more mental fatigue. So a mental burnout, just decision fatigue, compassion fatigue, all the things that happen. So a lot of times when people think about burnout, they think about the physical part, just like being exhausted and being tired, but it can really show up in very different ways. And for me, it definitely did. Like I said, trying to juggle all the balls and keep all the plates in the air, and for different reasons, it just became too much.
Yeah. And increasingly, I seem to be having more conversations with women that are experiencing burnout or are close to burnout.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I don't know what the research shows, whether what the statistics show, whether it is on the increase. I don't hear it talked about um, on a wider basis as much as what I did, say, 5, 10 years ago. But I'm increasingly having conversations with women that feel that they're on the verge of burnout or they have experienced burnout.
Yeah, and I think, part of that could be the reason you don't hear so much about it anymore. I feel like because we've normalized it,
Mm,
we've just everybody's exhausted. And so we just kind of think that's the way it's supposed to be. You're supposed to just work hard, come home, fall asleep, get up, do it all again. And so I think we've really normalized the dysfunction. So we're not talking about it so much
mm,
because everybody's living it. So yeah, it's just kind of become the
yeah.
way that we do. Almost like we've forgotten what it is to actually feel well, because
Hmm.
we've just gotten so used to just burning the candle at both ends.
Yeah. And that is a very, very interesting perspective because it this sort of always on the go culture, as you said, has become normalized.
Hmm.
And particularly we see with the use of advances in technology, people always being connected to their
Mm.
devices, to something or another. People are not necessarily switching off. Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, technology, it's good, it helps, it makes things easier for us, but we have definitely become, slightly addicted. I think,
Mhm,
we're looking at
mhm.
our phones constantly, even when they're not making noise to tell us we need, just in case, we're picking up our phones, we're on our laptops and our tablets all hours of the day and night. We're on,
Mm,
we're available, not just on like we're, mindlessly scrolling through social media, which do a lot of that, but we are available, at work. And again, it's become the norm where I'm going to message you on the weekend, or I'm going to send you an email on a Sunday, and there is some expectation that you're actually going to respond. So,
mhm.
again, it's just become normal to just always be available. And as an introvert, that just, it's not sustainable. It's just not
It isn't.
sustainable.
No, it's not sustainable at all. And so, how can introverted women leaders switch things around so that they're not and it's quite and I know it is quite challenging if you're in a culture or you're working in an environment where there is that expectation. So how can they turn things around? What can they do so that they're
Yeah, I
not
think
being performative?
yeah, I think there's a couple of things that we can do. And honestly, I think the power of an introvert is so underrated because everything is so external and so go and so in your face. Um, but being an introvert is really, it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. And it is really powerful. I think, you really do have to kind of take a beat from what's going on around you, and really find ways to center yourself. So I think some of the things that we can do as introverted women leaders to help us manage in this always go, always on world, because that part, I don't think it's going to change right now. One of the things is to know how to create boundaries for ourselves, right? Because nobody's going to do that for us. Nobody is going to say, "Oh, Lynise has had enough today. We're gonna just leave her alone." Nobody's going to do that. So I've got to be able to do that for myself, to learn how to protect my time, how to protect my space, how to protect my energy, and really hold to those boundaries. And I think, again, as women, creating boundaries isn't always something that we're really good
Mm,
at. We're really good at giving and giving. We've got to learn to give to ourselves so that we can stay more grounded. And I think when we do that, we are able to be more responsive and less reactive,
mm,
um, because we're moving from that place of peace and stillness, that depth that's really inside of us. I think then we can do that deep processing that's required to kind of, to lead and to lead well, and successfully. I think from that visibility perspective, um, one of the things, again, that I think is a strength of being an introvert is that we tend to value what I'll call quality over quantity. So, we might not always have something to say like every single time. We might not, if we do social media, we might not be the ones that are posting like 2 times a day, every day, every week. But when we do speak up, it's thoughtful, it's well prepared, and it's powerful, and it's relevant. So I think knowing that and being comfortable with like not always having something to say just so you can be seen, I think is really, really a great strategy. It's something that I definitely lean into. When I'm in meetings with clients and things, and everybody wants to talk, and sometimes I just want to listen. Until I feel like I have something that's really valuable to add to the conversation. So I think those are some things that we can do to really
mm.
protect our energy and protect our peace and be able to lead from, again, that place of depth that I think I don't say only introverts, but mostly introverts are able to access readily.
Yeah, but speaking about boundaries, I mean, one of the things that I often have when women come to me for coaching is the challenges around boundaries is thinking that they have to be saying yes to people because otherwise, that if they don't, people will think that they're not good enough or that it can be some sort of form of people pleasing, and not saying no can be difficult initially until they see the importance of it and they put those boundaries into play. So for somebody who is, yes, like that, who feels that they can't say no, they have to please everybody. How do you work with them to get those boundaries in place?
Yeah, it's one of those, I call it one of my power moves, and it's something I had to learn because I was not good at it. Now I'm better. I won't say I'm perfect at it, but I am better at understanding that no is a full sentence and it's really okay. Um, yeah, I think you know, because it is uncomfortable, when you're used to saying yes, when you're used to showing up for everyone, start small. That's what I would say.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be no to the biggest thing that's going to feel super disruptive and it's going to leave you in a emotional spin because you feel like you're letting people down. But start with something that is, small. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it could be, I don't know, something so small as if you're out having ice cream with your significant other, and it's always been a thing where, you share that, even if you don't want to taste their ice cream, your own, like just say, no, thank you. And
Mm-hmm.
just stop there and feel that little bit of discomfort, but also feel that what I say, like the world didn't stop spinning. It's okay, and their response might be a little like, oh, you're not going to eat my ice cream this time, but they're okay. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think when you start small, I don't know if it's the self-importance that we place on ourselves that if we say no, like people are going to be so upset and things just aren't going to go well, but they will. But
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely a learned behavior. So I say start with small things and sit with, because it does feel uncomfortable, sit with that discomfort a little bit, but then
Mm-hmm.
realize like, okay, it's still going. So, all right,
Mm-hmm.
and then work your way up to some of the bigger things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes, that is baby steps. I think
Baby
is
steps, yes.
a good way to start. And the other thing you talked about, the visibility. Oftentimes when I'm doing workshops or talks for introverted leaders around personal branding, visibility, they talk about how, the big why do they have to do those things? Because a lot of it doesn't come naturally. And in an ideal world, they would be spotted for the work that they do, the talent that they are. But unfortunately, we're not in an ideal world. But what you suggested there about not feeling that you have to just speak for the sake of speaking because everybody else is doing it,
Hmm.
but speak when you have something of value to add to the conversation. I think that can be very powerful.
Yeah, and I think other people will notice that, that, okay, maybe she's not the one who's always talking, who's always got an idea, but wow, when she does say something, it really
Mm-hmm.
hits the room, and leaning into that and feeling good about that. It's hard when you are in a room with, perhaps a lot of extroverts or, just people who are always on. Um, it can be difficult. Maybe you do feel invisible because you're not the one who's always talking. You're not the one who's always in front, always, saying, doing, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But again, some of that is just learning what your superpowers are and leaning into them, and even if while everybody's talking you're quietly telling that story to yourself, like, yeah, everybody's talking, but when I say something, it's going to be a
Mm-hmm.
showstopper. And even if you have to tell that your story, tell that to yourself until it just becomes a part of the way that you are. And I think another thing, even with the visibility, and I know that works well for me. It's funny, the light sun is coming up fully here in Virginia, and so the light is coming through my my window, and I'm like, what is going on with the lighting here? But
Yeah,
but
I
uh,
get that because where I sit, I have blinds in front of me, and so certain points of the day, you'll see stripes across my face where the sun's
yes,
moving,
it's
and
so
yes.
I know, and I'm moving around trying to make it move, and okay, I'm just gonna leave it be. But no, that's what's going on. Um,
Hmm.
I think another thing that we can do in terms of visibility is when we can, we often do really well in smaller group settings or even one-on-one where where our depth, maybe we're a little more comfortable, in those
Hmm.
spaces and not necessarily big, large groups all the time. So, even sometimes if you're at work, you're in a meeting and there's a lot of people and that's just really not your space of comfort, maybe there's that opportunity after the meeting to go to the boss or whoever's leading the meeting and say, hey, I had an idea, but I just wanted to run it by you. And now
Hmm.
it's one-on-one or maybe, a much smaller group. And you're feeling more comfortable, being able to share instead of, jumping into all of that, sometimes frenzied energy that comes that feels like when you're in larger groups. So that's another option as well.
Yeah, and I think we need to move away from this notion that you've always people always have to be speaking, people always have to be visible or making noise, um, because that isn't necessarily effective. Yes, it can be, but it's also, we don't have to accept that that is the norm. Who says that that is the norm? Who says that that is a
Right.
requirement? It isn't. Certain cultures value that reflective, thoughtful
Hmm.
leader, particularly cultures such as Japan and certain Nordic countries. They value that aspect of leadership. And I think the US, the UK, and many other parts of the global north have somehow bought into this um, extrovert ideal, as Susan Cain termed it in her book, Quiet, the Power of Introverts in the World That Won't Stop Talking, that, we've got to be this alpha gregarious and constantly in the spotlight.
Hmm.
Mm. But
Yeah.
we don't have to. Yeah.
No, no, you really don't. Like you said, it's just been normalized,
Mm-hmm.
that that's what's supposed to happen. That's how you show up. And a lot of times, when you're introverted, you sort of you come in and you almost feel like you get swept up into it and like, oh, everybody else is doing it, so now I've got to accommodate that and I've got to fit in,
Mm-hmm.
basically. But that's when you find yourself super exhausted. You get out of alignment with yourself. There's the decision fatigue, there's just all of that. And
Mm-hmm.
so those I think are the cues to listen to say, okay, I'm getting off center. What do I need to do to get myself back on center again? Because I'm on this ride and this isn't the way I can get through this. And instead of just trying to push through, which a lot of people do, I think that's the opportunity to really say, no, I need to slow down here for a minute and get back to me, get back to who I am and what my
Mm-hmm.
strength is and feel comfortable in that. And, I say that like it's super easy to do, and it does. It takes time. Um, I think it takes time for us, and I think it takes time for the people around us because, again, everyone else is so used to being on and going and talking, and as you say, making noise, all the time that it's different for them too. It's
Mm-hmm.
different for other people when you're not always talking, when you're not always on, when you say, hey, I'm gonna go take a break, I'll be back, in 5 minutes. And it's like, who does that? Wait a minute, what are you doing? So it's different. They have to adjust, the people around us have to adjust as well. But it's a growth opportunity for everybody. So
Mm, it is, and that's why, and I think knowing yourself, knowing ourselves is so important, so
mhm.
that we can recognize when we're doing that, when that is happening, when we need to just take a step back and slow down, just
Yes,
be quiet.
yes.
Hmm. Yeah, it's so important to have that self-reflection time, so that
Yeah, and
we can be more self-aware.
it doesn't have to be long,
Mm.
sometimes it could be, a half an hour. Sometimes it could be just 30 seconds or a minute to just stop and close your eyes and take some breaths and just recenter and then go on, with whatever it is that you're doing. So this light is really driving me crazy. So just
That's okay. And so then when it comes to productivity, and time management, and rather than focusing on time management, focusing on managing your energy, because that can be
Hmm.
quite powerful, can't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Mm.
So I think we've got time management down to an art form, right? I think I can put more stuff on my calendar and color code it and it's beautiful, everywhere I'm supposed to be. But I think the thing that we haven't been taught is, now that I know how to put all these beautiful things on my calendar, how do I then have the energy to actually show up and do all of these things and do
Mm-hmm.
them well? I think that's what we're not teaching people. It's what we're not teaching our leaders. And so there is that opportunity, and that is the focus of the work that I do with individual, is to teach them about these different energy centers. There again, there's spiritual energy, what it feels like to be in alignment, what it feels like to not be in alignment, and how to nurture that. Your
Mm-hmm.
physical energy, so making sure that you're eating well, you're sleeping well, you're hydrating, you're moving your body, so you're nurturing your physical capacity, and how to nurture your mental energy and your emotional energy so that you can show up, so that you're not making decisions from a place of exhaustion. That you're not, finding yourself just irritable or disconnected or apathetic, all of the things that happen when you're emotionally worn out. So learning about those energy wells, those energy centers, I call them,
Mm-hmm.
and finding ways for you, because what works for me may not work for you. Everybody is different, but finding ways for you to know when things are kind of going awry, and strategies that you can incorporate into your lifestyle that help you to keep those energy centers, because once you have the energy you know to do those things, you can lead, you can live in such a different way. It's not just at work, it's we come home and we've still got all the things that we have to do. And if those energy centers aren't nurtured, we don't show up as our best selves. And,
Mm.
time is limited. There's only 24 hours in any given day, not a moment more. But energy, you can recharge, you can reinvigorate. So, I really love to help women learn how to tap into that as a strength, and really lean into their well-being as a way to be effective, to what I say, to live well and to lead well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's something that I encourage my coaching clients to do, and also when I'm delivering workshops or talks on stress management and so forth, is about making sure that they're topped up in those energy centers, as you call them.
Hmm.
Because if we're depleted in one area, it has an effect, doesn't it? Yeah. Uh, it has a
Yeah,
negative impact on us, even if we're depleted in one particular area. Mm-hmm.
absolutely so. And again, a lot of times we have normalized working and living from depleted states.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how many people will, oh, I only sleep 3 hours a night. And I'm like, that's
I
not
know,
good.
and that's like a badge of honor, isn't it? Oh, I only survive on 3 hours sleep a night. Uh,
Oh, yeah, no, let's not do that. That's not
mm.
something you should be telling people. So, yeah, but again, we have normalized functioning from depletion, from
Mm-hmm.
exhaustion. And I think when you do learn to tap into those energy wells and you reconnect, because we weren't always disconnected from this, but you reconnect to what that feels like.
Mm-hmm.
It's just magic. It's just, the aha moment, the light comes on, like, oh, this
Mm-hmm.
is how I should feel. This is what I was missing. I do remember this, and I like this a whole lot better than what
Yeah,
I was doing. So, mhm.
yeah. And I think, as you said, because it's become so normalized that people don't even realize. that is what is lacking, because they just accept, well, I'm tired, or I feel drained, but I feel exhausted, but yes, I still carry on.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, once they experience what it feels like to be at their optimal, because that's what happens is when you are energized in all those four areas, you are at your optimal. We are at our optimal. Once you experience that, then you realize that you're not um you previously weren't firing on all cylinders, so to speak.
Right.
Mm, yeah.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
Exactly.
But because it's
Yeah.
just become so normalized, people don't even realize that
No,
they're
they
not.
don't. They
Hmm.
really don't. And I feel like there's something inside of inside of all of us that knows even what we've normalized isn't the way.
Hmm.
But we're so busy going that we just don't take the time to stop. And sometimes, we don't stop because oh, we're going to miss out. I'm going to miss this opportunity. Again, I've got to prove myself. I've got to always be available. And so we've bought into this mindset that somehow success means struggle and success means sacrifice.
Hmm.
And it's not sustainable.
Hmm.
It's not sustainable. And then eventually our bodies, our mind, are just gonna be like, no, we
Yes.
can't do this anymore. So I guess you can choose to slow down or you can be forced to slow down. But I feel
Yes.
like one way
And
or
that
the other, it's coming, it's coming.
that's right. And it's better to do it whilst you have control rather than it controlling you.
Exactly.
And one of the things that I'm increasingly gaining interest in is what people are doing to relax. So when they've finished work, and um, a lot of people have spent time mindlessly scrolling on their
Mhm.
phones, on social media platforms, but that isn't re-energizing us.
It's not relaxing. No,
It
you
isn't.
think it is.
No. Yeah, you think it is because you're not physically doing anything. You're not responding to emails, but you're just scrolling. And I actually read an article this morning. It was about zombie scrolling, and they said it's like being a zombie, that we just get into this state where we're just scrolling, scrolling, scrolling because we're looking for that dopamine hit
Exactly.
that comes from seeing people like our posts or people comment or that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it's not re-energizing us. It's not revitalizing us.
No, it's not. And it's
Mm.
amazing how you can get lost in it, and people will scroll and they'll even tell themselves like, "Oh, I'm just gonna, look at Facebook or whatever for, 10 minutes." And then and an hour goes by and
Mhm.
you look up and you're like, "Where did that hour just go?"
Mhm.
And oh
Mhm.
my goodness, what have I been doing with my life? But there is, as you read in the article, and there are studies that show um, that you're like you said, you're chasing that dopamine hit. You're chasing that high. And you don't even realize that, how addictive, honestly, social media is.
Mhm.
And but so many of us are there, and that's why we're picking up our phones constantly, we're checking things constantly, even when, we have alarms. Like I have an alarm if I get a text message, my phone rings some little noise.
Mhm.
We have alarms to tell us when it's time to pick the phone up, but we'll just pick it up anyway, just in case,
Uh-huh.
maybe I missed the alarm. I better go and look. And
Yeah.
we don't even realize that, that we're doing it, that what do they call it? The fear of missing out. I don't know what it is,
Yes.
but
FOMO. Yes.
yeah, the
Mhm.
FOMO, it's got us, man. It's got us. So
It really,
we
really
have
has.
to yeah, fine. And people find it's again sometimes uncomfortable to be disconnected, to take what I
Mhm.
call the digital detox and like put your phone down while we're having dinner, like no
Mhm.
phones at the table. And it's uncomfortable, for people to be in that space. But, to have that growth, sometimes you have to work through the discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
in order, again, to get to that point where you go, I didn't touch my phone for half an hour and the world
Mm-hmm.
kept spinning. So it's really okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And I think particularly for introverted women leaders or introverts generally, if you're, having expending a lot of energy during the day at work and having to constantly be switched on and do things which are contraindicative to being introverted, then going home and sitting on social media and scrolling through your phone is not the best thing to do at all.
Yeah.
Mm,
No, it's
mm,
not. Get out into nature, listen to some music.
mhm,
Even because quiet could be a lot. Quiet could be a big step, right? So
mhm,
baby
mhm,
steps. So, listen to some music. Um, and I am an avid reader, so I love to read. But even sometimes I default to music because I don't have to think about it.
mhm,
Because
mhm.
if I'm reading, then I'm still trying to like comprehend and figure it
Yeah.
out. And generally what I'm reading is not like just fun stuff. I'm trying to get into stuff. So
Mhm.
music just kind of can live in the background,
Yeah.
and you can
Yeah.
kind of turn this off for a little bit.
Mhm.
So yeah, if silence is too much, that's okay. Just
Mhm.
try music, and it doesn't have to be for an hour, 5 minutes. Just start, put your phone down, 5 minutes,
Mhm.
pick it back up if you need to, but 5 minutes today, 10 minutes next week,
Yeah.
you'll get there.
Oh, this has been a very interesting conversation. So thank you so much, Lynise. And so if people want to find out more about you, where's the best place for them to go?
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, you don't have to change who you are to be able to lead powerfully. I work with introverted, high performing women all the time to help them gain that clarity and presence and that sustainable energy. So, yeah, if you would love to connect with me, I would absolutely love to connect with you. You can find me online at my website. It's well with L, just the letter L, wellwithL.com. Again, you can learn a little bit more about me. You can schedule some time so we can talk and kind of see where you are and map out a plan for where you might like to go. And I would love to support you. I work one-on-one with people. I have online courses, so because I know we're all busy. So if you want to just go at it yourself, we can make that happen as well. And later in the year, I'm actually going to do a cohort program, an intensive, like a 12-week, let's just get together and make it happen kind of thing. So you'll find that on my website as well. But it's wellwithL.com. And I would absolutely love to hear from your listeners. And again, if I can be of service, I would love that.
Thank you so much. And listeners, do go and check out Lenise's website. I will put the link to the website in the show notes so that it's easier for you to access as well. So yes, do check her out. So thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure to have this very important conversation, I think.
Yes.
So thank you so much for sharing. Mhm.
Thank
So
you as well.
thank you, listeners, and do go and check out Lenise's website and connect with her, and look out for her program that she's got coming up as well. And if you are looking to increase your confidence, influence, and impact, if you haven't completed the free assessment on my website, go to aboundingsolutions.com. There's an assessment that you can complete that will give you ideas about areas that you can focus on. And so until the next time, bye.